Good morning. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. It was really fun for me to come in and see your ELAR lesson. I loved all the great things that you're doing in your classroom. The one thing I noticed that was just awesome was just your enthusiasm for teaching. I loved that. I loved how excited you were to teach and how excited you were about the content. And I have no doubt that that carries over to your students, and they are equally excited as learners as you are as a teacher. So I just really wanted to spotlight that is so unique and that is so awesome that you are just such an enthusiastic teacher. That's amazing. Your students are really lucky to have that. The other thing I noticed that was really great was you ran into a little technical glitch. So there was a point where your computer kind of started to lag. And rather than panicking or saying, oh no, my computer's laggy, I don't know what to do, you just very calmly use leadership. You told the students, I love that you communicated to them, you know what, I'm going to pause my video, I'm going to pause my sound, and you just kind of led them through that. You got over it and you just moved right on. You didn't let it derail your lesson, you didn't let it slow you down, and you didn't act in a way that the students were going to be panicked because your computer didn't work. So I just really liked how you handled that moment. I've seen a lot of teachers kind of panic in that moment, and you just handled it gracefully and went right on and just kept your lesson going. So that was awesome. One of the things that I did notice was just the overall structure of your lesson. It was very teacher-centered. And what I mean by that is you did most of the talking and you moved at a pretty rapid pace. And so one of the things I wonder was, how are you checking for understanding in the students as you go throughout the lesson? One of the things I saw you do a few times, which is great, is the thumbs up, thumbs down strategy. And I think especially on video with students, that's a great strategy to use because it's just like a quick way to assess, are they understanding, are they not, coming from themselves. However, my concern was it seemed like in a lot of those instances, there were some students who just weren't answering. And so I kind of wonder and worry about those students. Where are they at? What are they doing? Giving you a no response, is that another way of them saying they don't understand? Or are they just straight up not paying attention? And so I think if you're going to use that strategy, I think it's very important that your students understand why, and they understand that they need to respond, and that you maybe give them a little more wait time to make sure they are responding. There was another time when I noticed that in the chat box, the students had their hand raised or in the participation, and it just kind of went unnoticed. They sat there for quite a while with their little red hand raised, and their question never got answered. So that worried me a little bit. What was their question, and what did they need to know in order to understand the content? Because we want as students to be accountable for their own learning, I wonder if there's a way that we could maybe implement a little more engagement and interaction into your lesson. For example, like you used the three-part drill, which is a great strategy to use. You talked about how they were going to, say the sound verbally, and then they were going to write it down, and then they were going to read it off the soundboard with the different flip cards. And so they did have a chance to say it. They did not really have a chance to write it down, and then they did it off the flip cards along with you. Now, the concern I would have with that is where you're not actually getting the chance to hear them say that letter sound. Once again, where we're not checking for understanding, I just worry how many students are not participating or they're not actually understanding it. Also, they never really had a chance to do the write it down piece, which is a really critical part of those 3 steps. And so I'm wondering if you could implement something like whiteboards. I know it's really hard when you're interacting with students on a computer to get them to do things interactively with writing, especially in a way that they can share it. But whiteboards are one really quick, easy strategy where they can write down the letter and hold it up. And that's a really quick way for you just to quickly, formatively assess whether or not they're capable of that skill. I also thought it might be really fun to give them a chance to work a little bit more collaboratively with their peers. And so, for example, maybe they could say it out loud to a peer, maybe they could go into a breakout room at some point, and that would also really increase that engagement and just that interaction. And so I definitely think that we want to add in something, maybe some kind of collaborative strategy that could really benefit the students by checking their understanding a little bit more and doing it in a way that allows them to be a little bit more interactive. At that point, the students are going to be able to be accountable for their own learning and share what they know. Thank you so much for letting me come into your class today. It was really fun to watch you. I saw a lot of great things happening. Okay, on a side note, it's kind of funny to do this without somebody, having a back and forth conversation. However, some of the feedback that I would definitely work into a spontaneous conversation with a teacher, an academic concern I have is the students appear to be learning their letters, that's letter recognition and sound. However, when she was doing the flipboards, the soundboards, I noticed there was a CH blend, which was a little concerning for me because I wondered, have they learned blends? If they're still in letter recognition, they might not have learned that yet. So that was kind of a red flag that was thrown out, just small, but red flag. Another thing was just the engagement. Students didn't really appear to have any interaction with their teacher. She was very enthusiastic, but there wasn't any monitoring. There weren't any formative assessments along the way so that she could really gauge their mastery or their understanding. And the last thing was just communication. The teacher spoke very, very quickly. And based on the lesson, I would assume these students are a little bit younger. And so I just worry, are they able to keep up with the pace of that lesson, how quickly she was going through things, and how quickly she was speaking. I mean, I definitely understand the importance of pacing, but she seemed to be moving very rapidly through both content and her actual dialogue for kids maybe of that age. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I look forward to hearing from you.